Eclectic homes tell stories of creativity and individuality, and today we're taking you into 3 of them. 1, an oasis among oak trees deep in the Mississippi Delta. Another, a charming Georgia bungalow filled with vintage finds and lots of textures and patterns. And finally, a whimsical Connecticut home that showcases treasures from world travels. Each of these homes is a unique narrative of artistry and imagination. So join us as we meet the homeowners and explore their vibrant artwork, cherished collectibles, and thoughtful arrangements that transform these homes into personal sanctuaries. Enjoy! Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. To access all of this exclusive content, simply click the Join button below to become a member today. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Rebecca. Welcome to our home in the Louisiana Delta on Lake Bruin. Come on in. Hi, I'm Rebecca Vizard, and this is my sweet rescue beagle, Lulu. And we live in the Delta, in the middle of nowhere, between Natchez, Mississippi and Vicksburg, on the other side of the Mississippi River. So we are in the Louisiana Delta on Lake Bruin, near a town called St. Joseph. And I actually grew up here, and I tried to escape. I thought I wanted to live in the big city, but accidentally, I ended up back here, and it's been a good thing. When we first moved back here, I stayed quite frustrated all the time because I remember going to the grocery store and they didn't have limes, and I just had a meltdown one day and just said, "It looks like a lemon, but it's green. Can you please get them?" Because I was drinking gin and tonics at the time, and you can't have that without a lime. So anyway, what I can say is, since Amazon Prime has come around, I love living here because I don't have to worry about running out of printer ink, or I can get whatever I need in in 2 days. It's incredible. And honestly, living here and not being able to get everything you want has made us a lot more resourceful. We now grow the vegetables that we can't get at the grocery store, and we love doing that. And then we figured out it's even better than whole food to grow your own. So living here, we have adapted and we've learned a lot, and I think it's really enhanced our lives. And I would have never believed that. I really was pouting the first 4 years we were here. But it's like I say, I love it now. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Well, once we moved back, and I figured out that my dad was so happy having his grandchildren here. My husband was so happy hunting and fishing and playing golf. And I could tell my children were so happy here, and I could see it was going to be a good, healthy place to raise children. We decided to build this house, which was a huge statement that we're staying now. So we built this house in 1988. We moved in 89. And so when we designed the house, I worked with Michael Carbine in New Orleans and William Saunier. And it was quite an undertaking because I was 29 years old. And we said, we're trying to build our forever house on hopefully not our forever budget. And they got it, and they were great. And so we built a wonderful big shell. And every year we just added something. And it's turned out after, gosh, from 89 to now, we've been here quite a while. So we've had a lot of fun projects, and the house is not quite finished, but almost there. This is the part of the house we call the breezeway. The original house is over there. We added this space and the studio because my business was starting to make our house quite a mess. So now this is where I work every day. This has been an area, I love having all my textile books close to the studio because if I have to research something, I usually can find the book. And I have learned a lot from all of these books. And yet, I guess my knowledge of textiles has come from flea markets, museums, books, and my mentor who just died at 102 in France. And she taught me a lot because she taught textiles in Florence, Italy before World War II, and then moved to Paris where I met her. But anyway, my books, I don't know what I'd do if the house caught on fire. I would be throwing books out to everybody because I've collected them from museums all over the world and elsewhere. The other thing in the breezeway I really love is how this fig ivy vine came in, and it came in through one spot kind of in the corner, and it used to green up in the spring, and then sometimes it would die down a little in the winter. But one time I was having my gardener cut back some things because the fig ivy was growing up the side of the house. And I said, cut everyone back except this one vine right here. And I pointed to it and I put a little dab of Sharpie marker on it. And of course he cut it. And so now we have this dead vine in here. But I kind of like it. I'm having a hard time thinking about taking it down. And my husband actually is very glad it's not growing anymore because he thought it was going to take over the whole place. Now let's go to the kitchen. Y'all follow me. We'll go through the breezeway to the original part of the house, down the hallway of memories, crazy pictures of the family. Welcome to my kitchen. Really, my husband is the chef in the house, and it's kind of crazy, but our number one seller in our business is the seasoning salt, which is hysterical because it was such an accident that I put it in and somebody bought it and gave it to people all over the country. And so we finally had to put it on the website and now we sell tons of it. But he's the chef and he's really kind of a scientist. And he just makes up things all the time. He doesn't need recipes and he chops the herbs and then whatever he doesn't use in our meal he throws in this bowl. So every batch is a little bit different. And it's really fun. When people are hanging out here on weekends, everybody tends to like turn it. And so it's I guess it's kind of cathartic to sit here and turn salt. But this table is one of the first pieces I bought for the house. And it came from a great shop in Baton Rouge called Fireside Antiques. And the cool thing about the table is it has all these different storage places. It came from a restaurant in Paris, and it even has an area that's kind of that was dug out on the end where they said they had a meat grinder. So the funny thing too was our kitchen was not complete, and I bought this just knowing it would fit. I just knew it would, and my husband, when they saw it, they said, "There's no way that's going to fit." I'm like, "Sweetheart, I promise you, it is going to fit." And we brought it in, and it fit perfectly. And actually, my husband said, good, because there were 4 men that came and it took my husband and 6 men to move it. And he goes, good, because it's not leaving. But anyway, the other thing I really love is our sink. But what I really love is if I have a dinner party and it's too late, you can hide the dishes on this side. And this side is really a deep piece. So you can hide a lot in there. Anyway, and we have art by friends, and I love being here, looking out the window when you're washing the dishes, and sometimes we have wildlife that comes up, and occasionally we'll have a bear that gets a little close, and I can't stand when I look down the road and see a bear. It's a little frightening. I do get the dogs in. But so far they haven't gotten too close, but it's kind of like Wild Kingdom out here. Well, while we spend the most time in the kitchen, we did spend every evening in sitting around this table when the kids were growing up. and this was our nighttime routine. And it was so, I mean, I just can't believe that I was able to raise a family that ate dinner around a table every night. This is a wonderful sculpture by Bradley Sabin, who is just, it's so incredible. And this is another piece from Fireside. Actually, both of these are. And I've loved this. I've used this in so many ways. At one time it was our bar. Another time I used it in the big room for our books. It's a very versatile piece. The art, this is a Hayes Friedman that I just love. I love the mood of it. As I said, I was an art major, so I do love the art. And these are two pieces that I bought at a flea market for $25, and I loved them. And now when you find them, they're a lot more expensive. But those were early purchases for this house. The fabric is so fun. I kept thinking I had too much wood in here and it was driving me crazy, and I was either going to paint that or paint this table. And my friend Jeanette Whitson, who has Garden Variety Design, had this fabric on some of her chairs, and so I got her to order some for me, and it kind of cooled it off in here, and I think made it okay to have this much wood. So once I did that, I'm not as anxious about painting everything, but I may someday, I don't know. One of the things I love about the layout of our home is that we can use this place to eat, or we can set all our food out and open the doors and go to the porch, which is the place where we really hang out. And I would love to show you the porch and show you where we have many meals out here. The funny thing about the architectural style, when I was talking to the architects, I said I wanted a New Orleans style farmhouse, lake house, hunting lodge. And they kind of laughed and said, well, yeah, good luck with that. And as it turned out, that's really kind of what we got. And we used a lot of old elements from old buildings around the area, and it kind of feels like it's been here forever. I've ended up with quite a mix. It's sort of traditional farmhouse style, but we do have really high ceilings, which kind of is the New Orleans influence. I've gradually decorated, and I love vintage and antique things. I love things with a history and things that will tell a story, basically. And particularly, I love textiles, as you know. I would say I've gradually collected things. And the other thing is I was an art major in college. And so I really love art, and I really love contemporary art. So it's kind of a mix of antique textiles, contemporary art, a few traditional pieces of art. I don't know. I'm just whatever inspires me comes to the house, and it seems to work. I don't know why, but it does. And this is our screened-in porch that I really love. It's funny, when we first built the house, we didn't do the screens because I thought, well, it'll impede the view of the lake. Well, we probably screened this in about 10 years ago, and this is where we live now. We live either in the kitchen or out here. And most of our meals are eaten on this porch because, we have 75-degree Christmases a lot of times. And so it's more fun to have a dinner party out here than in the house for some reason. Everybody likes eating outside. My husband and I hang out here a lot in the afternoon, evenings. He will grill on a little baby green egg, and we'll have a little wine, and we just talk about the day, and this is just magical out here. This is it. We're going to have some company tonight, so I went ahead and set the table the way I would for company. And what's great about this table, we got these other two tables that work as a bar at the end, but also if we have more seating we need, we can just pull the tables to the end, and we can seat 16 people out here. And it is really fun. Everybody wants to eat on the porch. And sometimes when it's even a little too cool, we'll just I have a lot of Cantha blankets inside, and we'll just wrap in those, and everyone will eat out here. And the people who haven't been here before, I always let them sit on this side, because usually at night the moon is glistening on the lake, and I love for people to see that. It's just really special. Sometimes we do candles, but sometimes there's a breeze and we can't we can't use candles. But I love these because you can turn the lights on. They recharge, and these actually were a gift from a bunch of friends who were up here, and the electricity went off at their house. So they called, and I was out of town, and I said, well, just use our house. And so they were having a dinner party out here, and they couldn't figure out how to turn the lights on the porch. And so next thing I know, I get a box of these lamps. They said everybody was eating with their iPhones over their plates. So that will not happen again. And this is one of my favorite vases because it's so easy to make an arrangement. And the nice thing is when you're sitting at a dinner table, you can see over it. I carry these in my shop, even though we're out right now, but I just love the design of that. And they've been around for years. I just think they're classics. And they don't stress you out trying to make an arrangement. Anyway. And the zinnias from the yard. You will see a lot of zinnias. The plates actually were my mother's, my parents' wedding presents. And these are spode, and it's a pattern called geisha that they don't make anymore. And when I was getting married, I told Mama, I said I can't find any plates that I like better. And she said, well, look, I never use those. Those are my fancy plates. And finally, I just decided she had something like 18. So I just decided they've become our everyday plates, and I love them, and they make me think of my parents being young and in love and getting married. One of the other best things about the screened-in porch is it's right off our living room. And when we have parties for more than 16, I mean, we've had as many as 30 or 40 here, and everybody ends up being able to sit for dinner because we open up the living room. Well, hi, Birdie. This is our living room, and I love this red color. And the funny thing about this color, I think this was about the 10th time I painted it. I couldn't get the color right in here for anything. And finally I got a red, and I really wasn't happy with it. And my dear friend Ann Conley said, B, I think this color's just too aggressive for you. And so I went, you're right, that's the problem. So I mixed up a glaze, having been an art major. And the funny thing was, I hired a high school student, and he painted on the wall, and I came along behind him and wiped it off. And it just toned down the red where it reads as red, but it's really kind of a pink. And the cool thing, I think, is that it doesn't look feminine. You know, I wanted a place that my husband was real happy in. But it's a pink, but not a pinky pink, not a girly pink. And the other thing I realized is how much I like mixing all the reds now, because it's got different shades of reds in there. So it kind of goes from an orange to a pink. And for instance, when I bought these chairs at an antique shop, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to recover them. And I brought them in the room, and I went, you know, they kind of work. And as well as this pink piece that I got from Watkins Culver in Houston. And I thought it was going to go in the living room. And when they brought it in, I thought it looked great with the walls. And I just didn't believe it when I bought it. One of the things I'm learning the longer I'm playing with color is that, you know, reds and pinks and oranges can all kind of blend together, particularly when you have a big eclectic mix with all kinds of things in there. I love these birds. These came from a shop in Houston called Area. And I actually bought these for a client. And when I brought them home, my husband said, he can't have them, I want them. And so I went, oops, all right. So we kept them. As I've said before, I love the way our house melds with nature, and I love bringing in natural pieces. This is a great example of a stump from an old cypress tree. And I just think it's phenomenal. It's so architectural. It makes you realize that really nature is probably one of the best architects or artists there is. I love the way the colors in the gold kind of go with the wood in that. I love the way our dogs just get everywhere in the house and feel very comfortable. I also love this chandelier. I'll have to tell you more about my projects, but this one we called a cork delier. and it's made out of wine corks, and I hire at-risk kids to help me make all these chandeliers. So I'm going to show you another one in just a bit. But these projects are just dear to my heart because they are helping the needy in our area, and they have fun, and they get very excited about making their own money. I try to catch kids when they are about 16 or 17 before they sometimes get sucked into the welfare system or something. But once they get that little itch and love making their own money, they tend to get jobs and do well. My first group of 7 kids, 6 of the 7 all have done well, have gone on, and they're all working and good, productive citizens and happy. So it's just one of my favorite things that's come out of living here. The things in here that I find the most interesting, the table, the coffee table here is from Mac Maison in New Orleans. And the legs are from the old Woolworth building in New Orleans. That was part of their balcony. And the top is an old limestone piece that was used for making lithographs. That was also an early purchase for the house. The other thing, I love this particular artist, Damon Matsuo. He lives in New Orleans, and my friend Ann Conley has an art gallery in Baton Rouge, and I walked in one day and just said, Ann, I have to have that. And it was the first piece she had gotten from him. And I just loved it because I love the movement, I love the structure. And then I realized it's a man holding a baby and the woman's pregnant. And I thought, well, it could represent my family. So it's pretty special. Then I've just collected a lot of different art from different people. I have a couple of Hunt Sloanums. I love, this is actually a Picasso, and it's got a different drawing on the back. I love art. I can't seem to get enough art. And I don't mind mixing the really valuable with the kind of fun. One piece my nephew did when he was in high school. And then we've got serious artists. And this is my friend Bill Joyce, who is a famous cartoonist. He did the characters in Toy Story for Buzz Lightyear and Woody, and he's done several movies that have been pretty successful. Well, this room, originally when we built the house, we didn't have a lot of money, so this room wasn't even finished. And I mean, we just had a bare light bulb hanging there. My children learned how to ride their bikes in here, and they learned how to rollerblade in here. I mean, there was one sofa in the middle of the room with a little table, and they would just go around it like the NASCAR drivers. But anyway, the room just kind of evolved. I mean, we knew we needed a bigger space for eating, and the dining table actually came from my aunt, and it seats 16. It has a lot of leaves, but the funny thing about it was all the leaves were different colors of wood. And now I'm so sorry I painted the table because I thought it kind of looks like striped wood in the middle. But now I look back on it and I think I can just picture them. Well, they needed another link, and they just went out and cut whatever tree and made these different pieces to go in the table. And I don't know why I didn't think that was cool at the time, but now I may strip that table one day. But I do want to show you the funniest thing here, the hat box, the hat basket. This is where a lot of fun goes on, and whenever I can find vintage hats at a good price, because they get way overused, we pulled them out, and it's hysterical how everyone seems to take on a different persona when they put their hat on. And the other funny thing is Michael and I will be in the kitchen cooking, and the party started when all of a sudden someone pops around the door and they go, and we look at each other and we go, oh my gosh. And of course it happens every weekend, so we pretend like it's the first time we've ever seen that. But everybody seems to really get going with the hats. Let's go upstairs and mind this. We originally used this for the kids to keep them corralled in here, and now we use it for the dogs when they get wet, so they can't go upstairs and jump in our beds. Let's go. Welcome to the bedroom. This is obviously one of my favorite spots because I'd love to get in bed and read a good book. But we love having this porch off the bedroom and the screen, so when the weather's really nice, we leave the doors open. As a matter of fact, one morning we were lying in bed, and all of a sudden we heard this huge, just it was so loud, it felt like the house was shaking. And I was horrified. I thought maybe, there was a bomb or something was happening, a plane crashing. And my husband and I jump up and we run out. And evidently it was the beginning of a bass fishing contest. And like right at 6 a.m., every boat went, and it just, everybody's house, I think, vibrated. There were so many boats on the lake. But that was also early when we moved here. Now we sleep through it. We don't even notice it. This is really a great, our bedspread is old. We made it out of old sheets. Of course, I love putting a long pillow on a bed. This is as a matter of fact, this is the easiest thing to sell to men because men hate beds with like 10 different pillows on it. So you just have your pillows you use to lean back on and one decorative pillow. So if anybody wants one of those, that's how you convince your husband you're going to get one. Anyway, once again, I love the Suzanis over here. This is a really amazing piece. We now are representing a man from Uzbekistan who produces the most beautiful Suzanis on real silk, not on polyesters or bamboos, and the threads are all silk. And he just does an incredible job. And I can't tell you, we must have, I don't know, at least 150 Suzanis in our stock right now. And this is one of my favorite pieces in the room because really for a bedside piece, it's got so many nooks and crannies that you can put your cuticle cream or your lip stuff and all your little nighttime things right there. And I actually found this on eBay and I was so nervous to buy it, but it came from California and I talked to the guy and he just said he was redoing his house and going all modern. And I just am tickled to have this piece. It holds a lot. The other thing I can't wait to show you are these curtains. When I was early on the Neiman's trip, when I was buying things for the Neiman's shop, I found this beautiful tablecloth, and the amazing thing was it was already cut in half, and I thought, what a shame, that big, beautiful piece. And it's got this amazing ribbon work and embroidery, and I was about to cut it up to make pillows, and then I started thinking I needed drapery in my bedroom. And so I just took a smaller piece and added it to some fun silk. And I mean, I think it just transformed the room to have this. Now, my very favorite thing in the room is my line and witch and wardrobe moment. But I saw this in France at a famous artist's atelier. When I asked to use the restroom in French, they pointed at the armoire, and I thought, how did I screw that up? Anyway, I opened their armoire, and it was the cutest little powder room. So for years, I looked for the right piece, and this has added so much to our bathroom because we have so much more storage now, and it just makes me feel magical when I walk in and out of here. I think something good's going to happen. But we have a great space in here, and another thing that is one of my favorite tricks I used to do with interior design, when you have a great view, you hate to have curtains going to the top. So I always have little shutters made like this so that you can have privacy, but you can still see the stars. So at night, if I get in my tub and read a book and the stars are out, it's just, once again, it's my happy place. So. And this is our porch, our screened porch up here. We love it, as I've said, because the breeze can go through our room and we hear all the nature sounds and the birds. I love this tree out here. It looks like a bonsai. It's been my favorite tree. For the longest time, that was one of the biggest ones, and now these are catching up, and I'm almost sad that I don't have such a good view anymore. This is an old swing it was a daybed from France, and we just converted it into a porch swing. One of the funny things about this porch is we didn't have two doors, but years ago, my son, when he was about 2, locked himself into our bedroom, and I was totally panicked because he was 2. The key came out because it was one of those old-fashioned locks. We couldn't get in. We were just completely panicked. So I climbed out that window, and we didn't have the door here, so I had to like go along the edge, like I don't know, Batman or something, and then come in the door here, and thank goodness this door was open so I could get in. And he was having a blast in the bathroom, just digging through all the cabinets underneath and pulling everything out. And I'm like, no telling what he would have gotten into if I hadn't been able to do that. But we love being able, once again, to open up our house to nature. And this helps a lot. And this is a nice contemplative place sometimes to sit and read a book. And this was my son Ross's room, which of course didn't look like this when he lived here. But we love, it was such a small room and it was perfect for him. But we, always tried to make it work with it. We didn't have much room for furniture. And we stayed in a hotel one time in France that we were laughing. My husband actually walked in, he goes, "You gotta be kidding me," because there was about 2 feet all the way around the bed. But they had these built-in pieces on the sides of the bed and places to hang your clothes inside. And it turned out that it was perfect and we were very comfortable in there. And so we said, while we were in Paris, we said, this is what we have to do in Ross's room. So this worked out great. We love it because you can plug your cell phone in the side and there's plenty of storage. And then I love the curtains in here because, I love so many different textiles and particularly a lot of Eastern things. So this is a Elizabeth Hamilton textile. And of course, I loved having the Fortuny in here because Fortuny is one of my favorite fabrics. It's hard to beat a good Fortuny. And then the other thing that's so fun from being up here is it feels like you're in a tree house when you look outside because we have these giant oak trees that are right in front of the house and really surround the house. And all of our guests love it. And one problem is all of our dogs love it too. And so they love to get on every bed in here and watch out the window and look for squirrels. And so I have to keep a lock on the outside to keep all the rooms closed. And because all the doors are very old. And so when our guests come, they usually go, "Now what is that hook lock on the door for?" They think we're going to lock them in their room. But anyway, it's just to keep the dogs from, they've learned how to open doors. They're very clever. Speaking of, that couldn't have been better timing. See what I mean? And most of our guests are very dog friendly and actually bring their dogs with them when they come. But every now and then somebody doesn't want any dog hair on their bed. Okay, Lulu, you ready to leave? Are you ready to leave? Let's go show them something else. One other thing great about the porch is we have all the doggy doors. So the dogs go in and out all day long. And I don't know if you can hear the birds, but they're magical right now. I want to show you the playhouse. This is the building I was talking about that we moved here after Katrina. We nestled it here in these big live oaks. And at night we have lights, so they shine up in the oaks and it gives us a nice, area that we can see at night even though there are no lights out here. My husband loves to cook out here. But as you can tell, this building was built in the 1940s. Welcome to the Playhouse. And it was called the Playhouse because when the soldiers in World War II built it, this was where they played poker and this was all they did was play in here. And so we still call it the Playhouse. And it is funny, sometimes people come and I go, "Okay, y'all are staying in the Playhouse." And they're like, "Well, that sounds fun." They don't know what it is. First thing I wanted to show you is the Beardelier. When we moved this building here, I knew it needed a light fixture over the table, but I just didn't want anything too serious. I don't know, I felt like, I just couldn't find anything. And once again, I just hung a bulb there until I figured it out. And then one day it dawned on me, I started thinking, wouldn't it be fun to do something with bottle caps? Like, I started thinking about a transition from a room like in the 60s and 70s when they had the beads hanging. And then I started thinking, wouldn't that be fun to do it with bottle caps? And then I thought, what if we would do the chandelier with bottle caps? And bingo. So this is the first one, and I hammered most of these. So anybody that came to visit for a weekend down on the dock, we would all sit there hammering when you took a break from swimming. And after I made it, I started thinking, this is brilliant because we can teach people how to make things out of trash and teach them, A, to pick up the trash, and B, to make some money off something that doesn't cost anything. So that's when I started my little Beardelier enterprise. This house is so special. The stove even is the original from the 1940s. And my husband cleaned it up and it still works, even though it kind of scares me. But he trusts it. I usually leave the house when he turns it on. This is the area where everybody hangs out. You know, during hunting season, my son and all his buddies will come here and just pack this place. I have to say, my sister-in-law is an artist, and she has very proudly put our family motto above the fireplace, which is smart is smart and stupid is stupid. And usually whenever somebody in the family does something stupid, that's what they say. And then also when they do something smart, we all say smart is smart and stupid is stupid. But anyway, this is just a mix of furniture. After a trip to South Africa, I became very enamored with all these bead chairs and started thinking in my black and white, and here I just had to have it. And then this was a chair that I found at Fritz Porter in Charleston, and I just love it. The Playhouse has several rooms. This room is almost exactly like it was. The termites had eaten up so much of the back that we had to take a lot of boards off the walls in the back to replace things here. And so the back rooms are painted. But my favorite thing in here are the ducks. Look at the ducks on the wall. And you're not going to believe this, but as we were flipping through her old guest book, we found this one. And this is probably 11/27/42. This was Lou S. Viter from Newark, New Jersey. So it was probably Thanksgiving. It was too far for him to go home. And he says, "You put me in fine shape for the war effort. Thanks from the bottom of my belly." And we think that the guy that did these cartoons of the man with a bandage on his nose and the horse was probably the person who painted on the walls. And his name was Louis Ravielli. And I looked him up online, and evidently after the war, he was a cartoonist. So his says, "I honestly can say I never had so much fun breaking my nose on Honey's neck." And Honey was her horse. So it was really, this is such a special place, and I will do everything I can to preserve it. I just love it. When people walk inside our home, I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel like, oh boy, this is going to be fun. And oh yeah, we keep a big basket of party hats in the corner. I mean, you know, if it starts raining outside, we can't play outside or be barbecuing or whatever, we then have a hat party. We start the blender up and just, you know, have fun. And we play games with kids with the hats. So we play dress up, and then if people have their kids here, we would make them do a show for us. And so we'd all set up with cocktails in hand and watch our children perform. With a hat basket is highly recommended. Everyone should have one. When you walk in a home and it's not so perfect, which, you know, and it has a little patina and it looks like it's lived in, I feel like that is what makes you feel, what makes you feel at home and feel like the people who live here don't just live in a structure, it's part of their life. And it's just, I feel very lucky we got that. At age 29, I don't know how I got this lucky. I'm amazed that I could come up with this and still love it at 64. So I don't know. The problem is I haven't slowed down, and at 64, I still try to do everything I did at 29. So, and this house makes you have a little more energy probably than some places. Let me take you to the real treat is the Vardo, or a gypsy wagon, and I got a great story about that. But I also love these big live oak trees. My grandfather bought this property in the 1950s, and believe it or not, he planted these then. You know, it's this rich delta soil. You would think these were 200 years old. But anyway, let me take you over there. And we hang out around the fire pit a lot, particularly in the fall. But I really can't wait to show you the gypsy wagon, because my husband says I travel so much, I'm really kind of a gypsy. Here, Birdie. Here, Birdie. I bought a book called shed chic a while back, and my husband loved it. And he had been looking at this old trailer base that was just out in the pecan orchard that was grown up with weeds. And he kept thinking, what can I do with that trailer? And so he got the idea to surprise me and make this gypsy wagon for me. And he did a great job. I mean, he had an architect draw it up so that it's got the little slanted walls. And here it is. We have lots of fun in here. Sometimes we come out here with a big bowl of popcorn and we can pull this out and make a bed, and we spend the night in here, and it's like, you feel like a kid at a slumber party. It is just a blast. And so we drink wine, we watch a movie, we eat popcorn, and then we snuggle up in the gypsy wagon. But it was so fun just finding things for it, and it's really a great place to have fun and come in and read books. This is the book Shed Chic that inspired my husband. And the funny story about the gypsy wagon is he kept leaving on Saturday morning saying he was going to go get some extra work done at his office. And I didn't pay any attention to it, and I just kept about my business. And he was doing this for a long time, and I never thought about it. And then one day I was cooking something and I ran out of the ingredient. And so I called him and I said, hey, I'm getting ready to run to the grocery store. Do you need anything? Because the grocery store is about 10 miles away. So he goes, no. He goes, I'll go get it while I'm in town. And I said, no, that's all right. I need it right now. And so I jumped in the car. I went in. Of course, I drove right by his office and didn't even notice his car wasn't there. And then got what I needed, drove back. And then he walked in the house that afternoon and he said, well, I guess you realized I really wasn't at the office today. And I felt my bottom lip going, and he goes, I've been lying to you. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, who is he having an affair with in this town of 700 people? And I was just like blown. I was really about to crumble. And then he goes, every Saturday morning, I've been working on a Vardo for you. And of course, the first thing I said was, what's a Vardo? But anyway, I couldn't believe it. He brought me down to see it, and he said, I'm building it. And he had a carpenter friend helping him. And he goes, and you can decorate it. So it's just been fun to find things here and there. And I mean, this is some fun paper that I got years ago at Creative Co-op, and I didn't know what to do with it. And one day I went, I'm just going to staple it to the walls in here. Because my idea is I think I'll have this for a while, and then I'll get tired of it, and I'll change it to another wallpaper. But anyway, it was ingenious the way the carpenter figured out to just pick up the bottom and pull this out. And the two mattresses go down, and it makes a queen bed. And I love the Suzani in here. It hides our little refrigerator and all the things under it. And the best thing and the worst thing about staying out here, we love listening to the birds in the morning when you're waking up, and it's just so magical. But all night long, the dogs hear all kinds of things, and they are howling and jumping up and everything, and we're letting them out and letting them back in. So that does kind of spoil a little of the magic, but it's a fun place. As I was telling you about this guy representing Uzbekistan, for instance, look at these little stitches around here, and this is why I think he makes the most magnificent Suzanis I've ever seen. This is called a flicker stitch. See how one stitch is white, the next one is black, and it makes them pop. After you see these with the flicker stitches, the other ones, while they're beautiful, they just don't have the depth that these do. This almost gives it a real raised feel and a liveliness to them. So these are my favorite kind to sell, the ones with the flicker stitch. I think I just love our home because it also is so interactive with nature, and it's so durable. We did concrete floors. I don't freak out when kids come running through in wet bathing suits. I mean, I think what I'm so proud of is I've managed to make a place that looks really good, but as you can see, dog friendly. It's very kid friendly. I guess what I've done is we've created a weekend house that we live in every day, and it's really been fun. I mean, we have a nice life. During warm months, which is about April to October, we go down on the dock, take a lake bath, wash our hair, put on my kaftan and sit down there and have a cocktail with my husband and then come up and eat. It's really pretty nice. And on weekends, the house is full of people. We have company every weekend. And it's gotten to be we don't even ask anyone. People just call and say, okay, we're open this weekend and that weekend. Which one works for y'all? And we go, oh, okay. And so we're happy to have all this and to be able to share it with our friends and family. Welcome to the garden. See this good Delta soil? It grows things really well. This is so exciting, though. I've had such a wonderful variety of zinnias come back up. I'll usually come out here and pick zinnias just about every day, and because zinnias love to be cut, and you go down and cut just where the next one is coming up. But these are some of my favorites. Look at the different colors in this petal, and they blend so well with the other pinks. I love using these to put arrangements together. And then the reason I have so many zinnias is I go through, and when I find a bad one, I just clip it and throw it in. And so these reseed every year. You have to watch out. Sometimes I have to pull out the purple ones because the purple ones seem to be dominant, and if I don't watch out, they'll all be purple. So I did that this year. The first ones that bloomed purple, I pulled about 75% of them out, and now I got this mix of all these other colors. So, to me, the fun thing to do is go, okay, you plant there. I would like for you to go there, and let's do some of these. These seem to be so healthy. They almost look like dahlias. They're just fabulous. I love these colors. And I have a great vase I'm thinking of putting them in that a friend of mine made. Some of my favorite are these they're like zinnias with perms. If you notice, they're a little bit frizzy on the ends. And these are called cactus zinnias. When Sarah, my daughter, was little, she would always go, Mom, can we go cut some happy flowers? And then one time I came in with roses and she goes, but no, those aren't the happy flowers. Anyway, so zinnias actually remind me of my sweet Sarah. Look at that color in there. Just great. This is a good one too. More of those mixed colors. All righty, maybe just a few more and we'll have it. We'll add some little purplish ones, purpley pinks. This is an area where we grow all our citrus trees, and last year at the Nashville Antique and Garden Show, I found this little greenhouse from Belgium. And so we've been so excited because now we have a great place to roll the trees in and save the citrus if it gets very cold. Last winter we had one day of 8 degrees, which we very rarely get single digits here. It usually gets down to freezing maybe once or twice in the winter, but most of the time we're almost tropical, but not quite. This is another little good patch of zinnias because I just threw any other seeds left over, and I'll have to show you my seeds after I do arrangements. And one thing about my landscaping I have learned, I was very excited after the Chelsea Garden Show that I went to a few years ago, and I decided I wanted this waddling everywhere in my gardens because it was everywhere in England. And once my friend Jeanette Whitson with Garden Variety Design told me where to get it, which I can't remember right now, but I was so excited, and I have figured out that the climate in Louisiana is not going to work for these. They really start deteriorating pretty quickly. But it's okay that I tend to like things with patina, so we'll just see how long they last. But I do recommend being in a drier climate. Oh, and these are the kale that made it through the freeze, and I have learned if you cut your kale from the bottom and keep doing that, you can end up with topiaried kale. It's looks like something from Dr. Seuss, but you know, I love anything weird. This is a vase that I just love. My friend Chip Sloan made, and it appears to be a Chinese vase, but these are actually the cypress trees from our lakes here in Louisiana. And I keep hoping he will make more, but he seems to be one of those artist types that's in and out of town all the time and changes and does different things, and I so love everything he does. But I think these are my favorite. This is going to be a very basil-y batch. In the winter we have more cilantro, but this is summertime salt. And we just let the salt dry out the leaves, and then the more we stir it, the more they break down. It's kind of fun. Well, in college, when I was an art major, my dad said, "What are you going to do after college?" And I told him I would like to go to New York and work for an interior designer and see if that's what I want to do. And then I would like to go to interior design school. And my dad said, "Honey, that's just for rich ladies to have fun. You're going to have to make a living." So I was really frustrated, but I thought, oh darn, okay. So I got out of college and basically had a few different jobs. But when I got married, and I had Sarah, who is now working with me, I was trying to figure out a way to work from home. So I started hand painting baby clothes. Long story short, I ended up splatter painting socks for Mervyn's, JCPenney's, and Dillard's. And socks were coming to our house in 18-wheelers. And so if you or your daughter had splatter painted socks in the 80s and early 90s, they came from here and they were painted right outside of this house. And that's actually when I made a nice amount of money, and so I decorated my house. And then many friends would come visit, and they would insist I come help them, and very quickly it turned into flying all over the country doing interior design for lots of people in New York and Nashville and Houston and all over the place. And then I realized I was about to lose my mind because it was too much for one person. And all my clients were, whenever I made a pillow for somebody, just a plain pillow cost a lot of money. And I kept thinking, gosh, for this amount of money, you should be able to get something really special. So originally, I made these pillows for my clients. Well, people love the pillows, and so more people wanted to hire me because of to get the pillows. And eventually, I had to give up the interior design. And it was difficult because, you end up loving your clients and then they become friends. But Katrina hit, and at the time, a lot of my work was in New Orleans. And so everything was dead. I mean, nobody cared about their houses. They were just trying to, get electricity, build back. They needed sheetrock. They didn't need pillows. And so it gave me a lot of time to just focus on the pillows and start reaching out to other designers and other stores, and the pillow business really took off. Why don't you come in the studio? This is where I work every day when I'm not on the road. And what we do in here is I find textiles. For instance, this came from a Turkish kaftan, and what we do is we cut out all of the little areas, and you have to be so careful not to cut the stitches in the back or the piece will come undone. This is also something called a Duval stitch. If you notice on the top, it's gold threads. And what they would do is they'd bring the gold threads over and then catch it on the back with a cotton thread because they were trying to save the valuable thread and they didn't want to waste any on the back. I've learned a lot from taking textiles apart. And this process or this stitch has taught my ladies how to sew them back onto a better velvet, a stronger fabric, and it's taught them how to hide their stitches. So it's every day is a learning experience. This is where I actually design, and I dig around and pull out something and I lay it out here. And normally you will see me like this because I keep a tape measure around my neck all the time, and half the time I run to town and I forget I have it around my neck. But I measure everything out, and then I have a design sheet where I draw the picture, and anyway, I'll draw it out, I'll make a description, I figure out the price. And the funny thing is, I actually started out as a math major in college because math just came easy to me. And I'm so glad because every day figuring out the cost of these pillows is it's like one big algebra problem. And I go, oh, thank you, math. You know, people always say, how are you going to ever use math? Well, it's important. But we have some beautiful pieces. I particularly love this one. Look at the sequin work on this. It is just amazing. And the good thing is it's in good shape. A lot of times the sequins are coming up. We will have to trim very closely as we put it down, and you try to tuck this under so that it doesn't show when we finish the pillow. This is just an amazing cape from probably the Ottoman Empire. You know, I think from Turkey, but it could be anywhere in that area. I just thought that was amazing, and I'm surprised an LSU fan hasn't bought it with the purple and gold. But the other thing that people don't realize, all my trims are antique. And so, for instance, when I go to use a piece, I only have this much. And I may go, this is the perfect patina. And then when I go to say, this isn't quite the perfect patina, but I'm just showing you how to do it. When I go to put this around, I'm like, okay, this is looking good. And then I get to that, and look, I need 2 more inches. And so I like kind of go, okay, let me go back to the drawing board and throw it over and find some more. But if you want to look in these drawers, I have quite a collection of these metallic tapes that in France are called galons. And we have the smaller sizes over here. And I'm always looking for these kind of pieces. When I first started out, I was so slow at designing because I didn't have so many trims. And one day in France, I found in a flea market a huge box. And I mean, there must have been $10,000 worth of these trims already taken off of things, because a lot of times we have to take them off pieces like this. So that's time consuming. But anyway, the guy was telling me how much they were by the centimeter, and I said, okay, will you start measuring, and I'll come back. I'll go have lunch. And I came back, and he said, well, I've only gotten about a quarter of the way through, and will you start picking out from these? And I said, okay. And he looked so mad that he was having to measure everything. So I said, okay, well, what about for the whole box, if I just buy the whole box? And he goes, how about 3,000? And I mean, that was when designing became a lot easier, because I had so many different patinas in that one box. And I tell you what, it weighed a fortune, because this is all metallic. I mean, these are heavy pieces, and I did pay a lot to have it shipped back. But that was a turning point in my business, because I ended up with so many different options. But I feel very fortunate that while I was doing interior design, that the businesses kind of overlap, because the interior design basically helped me buy so many of my textiles. So that gave me a nice inventory to start. And then, gosh, in 1996 or 7, I think, Neiman's bought for 22 of their stores. And so that's when I really got into the business very heavy. I had to go to France with bags and bags. And back then, I dragged them all home myself, which was not fun. My friends who were traveling with me would call me Pigpen, because I'd have these big rolling bags, and I would drop them, and dust would just flop out of them, and it was really kind of embarrassing. They didn't want to. I'd have to take a cab by myself, because they didn't want to be in the cab with the bags. But it was a lot of digging, learning, and fortunately, I was very curious. And I've been doing this so long that it's funny how I have found the same priest robe. I found the first one in France, I found the second one in Italy, and then I found the third one in Mexico. And they were both from the late 1800s, and I thought that must have been the most popular vestment during that time. I mean, it was just crazy to find the same thing in 3 different countries. Home means a place where you just want to go in and cocoon, and you just love it. And honestly, I love having land. I think the home is part of the landscape even. And if you have a home that opens up to the outdoors, you are happy in any season. In the winter, I love being in this big red room that's so warm and with the fireplace going. And in the spring, summer, and fall, the doors are always open to the screen porch, and we love hanging out there and cooking on the porch and eating dinner on the porch. So I just think home is where you're comfortable and you feel cozy and you feel love.
Hey, Homeworthy, I'm Latham. Welcome to our family's cottage here in Georgia. Come on in. My name is Latham Gordon, and welcome to our home that I share with my wonderful husband and two sweet girls and our tiny little puppy. We are in Decatur, Georgia, right next to Atlanta, Georgia, in a tiny little 40s bungalow. And we've lived here for right at 10 years. And we love our tiny little house that packs a lot of punch, so welcome. I'm an interior designer with Gordon Dunning Interior Design, and my partner Kate Dunning and I founded it right at 9 years ago. And we do almost exclusively residential interior design. We do a few small boutique offices here and there, which we enjoy. But the heart and soul of what we do is residential interior design, because we love working with families, with individuals, with people as a whole, and hearing stories and taking those and creating spaces that exemplify those and help families continue to create such memories around those priorities. This is a 1940s little cottage. It was a post-war home. It's very tiny. It's a little shy of 1,300 square feet, and it really packs a lot of punch within these tiny walls. And it's a very hard-working home. It is very flexible and really hugs us in all the ways we need hugging. We first started looking for homes in the Decatur area when we found out we were pregnant with our first daughter. And we knew we wanted a space that was small enough that we could be a family in it and spend a lot of time together, but also had some space for growth. And we found this little home. Our wonderful realtor took us to 2 or 3 homes, and we're like, no. And we walked in this one, we walked through to the backyard, and we're like, we're done. How do we put an offer in on this house? Because it meets everything. And it certainly aesthetically was not the finishes wise where we were gonna end up. Welcome to our home. You are in the living room. This is the main space where we hang out as a family with friends, and it's the space you enter as soon as you come into the house. So this presented us with a lot of design challenges, but I hopefully think we found a lot of solutions. Because it has so many traffic patterns, with the main entryway being there, the entry to the dining room, and all the bedrooms off of here, we really had to think carefully about furniture placement and then build out the pretty stuff from there, if you will. So in the overall space, we have a sofa here. In my dream world, I wanted it back there, but you would be walking right into the sofa from the front door. So we left a traffic pattern behind, and it makes it really intimate, and it still makes it so we can fit 6 people comfortably in here. So we've got a sofa, we've got these beautiful chairs that I love. In fact, it's a really sweet story. One of the wonderful girls at our studio, I had ordered these chairs, and it was in the depths of COVID, and they were taking forever to get here, and she didn't tell me that they had arrived, and I came home one day and there they were. And so I was very excited. But I love the fabric. It's a performance fabric, and we've got kids and dogs and I want things to show some love over time, but I want them to patina. I don't want them to look destroyed. And so it was really important to me to have a performance fabric, but that it also feel comfortable. Wanted to add a little funk here. We have lots of layers. I try really hard to do really classic upholstered pieces and then layer some funky fabrics in on the traditional as well. There's a mixture of textiles here. I love textiles. I come from a family of people that just love tactile things, whether it's hardwood or whether it's fabric, whether it's made in the United States, whether it's made in India. And so I somehow have ended up, I'm a very large collector. I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector, it's curated, with a whole bunch of textiles. Some have come from family, I pick them up when we travel, but this is a pretty Suzani that we have, and then we've got a really pretty Indian block print throw draped over the living room sofa, another beautiful alpaca throw on the other chair that lives in the window. And what I love about them is they do add a coziness factor. It's very important to me to have a space where when people walk in, they want to curl up with a glass of wine or they want to curl up with a cup of coffee and feel welcome. And so having throws and blankets and texture around, I think really encourages that. I have an addiction to both artwork and mirrors, and they collect and collect and collect, and so I have to really be intentional about putting them up. But this particular mirror, it's a federal style mirror, and actually there are a few things in the house that have a similar tale. It is from a show house that we did, and we wanted two ends of this big porch to have some reflection to them. And so we ordered these two Whopper mirrors, and at the end of it, we were like, what do we do with these? And I was like, I want one. And Kate was like, I want one. And so here she is. What I love about her is that she's a she, I've decided. She's convex, and so she reflects all of the light, which is really important because we don't have giant windows in this house, and I do love natural light. So in each room, I try to incorporate some mirrors because it really helps throw the light around and really helps lighten up the space. And so that concaveness also reflects the space and the light throughout. It's flanked by two paintings that I love, love, love. We were traveling in Paris and went out to the flea markets one day, and we were freezing. I mean, it was so cold. I'm a wimp about the cold, but it was freezing. And we went out there and found this one little tiny dealer, and she had a heater. So we crawled into her booth and went through and just came out with piles of stuff. And so these were two of my absolute favorites that we came home with, some vintage Parisian pieces. Then this is probably the main focal point, or this is the main focal point of this room. So when you come in the front door, you see this immediately. And if you're looking straight onto the sofa, you see it. And I have a lot of artwork that I've collected over the years, some gifted, some picked up on trips, etc., that I wanted to display, but also we had these beautiful panels. So we did a show house project and we had 5 of these panels and didn't know what to do with them. And so, like I said, we've got a few things that have this story. And so brought them home, and my darling husband helped hang them on the wall. So we created this panel across and then actually wired through them to add the sconces, because we also needed additional light in here because there's just the one window. And because I didn't want to mess those up, we used this gallery rail system. There actually wasn't a dealer locally that did it, so we actually pieced it together with different drapery pieces and some antique hooks and chain and created this gallery rail, so I didn't have to put any holes in these beautiful panels, and they're easily change outable. So they've each got little hooks on the back, so you can just pop them off at any time and then piece them back together. That's actually another piece from that same cozy little place in Paris. But this is just a wall of stories from our lives. I mean, this is West Point. My father went to West Point. There's a couple of pieces that are seascapes that were my grandmother's from an artist that she loved. There's one of our daughters asked for a picture of Santa for Christmas one year. And so this is Santa flying over our little cottage. And I have a very similar one. I don't know where my child got this idea because it truly wasn't from me. But there's a similar one that Santa gifted me when I was a kid of the house I grew up in that I pull out at Christmas. And then that's a piece I did in college. I mean, it's just a mix match. And then this piece is one of my favorites. Our youngest daughter did that. And so we framed it up real swanky for her. Another space, well, this is right in front of the door when you walk in. And I think I mentioned how important it is that, especially in a small house, that it worked for you. And this is an important piece of how it works for us. I have a big irritation when I have to trip over shoes, and apparently I'm the only one in my home that has this problem. And so we came up with this storage solution here. So all of our shoes go flying under there, and then our girls are bigger now, but this old desk that actually my husband found pops down, and they can sit down, put their shoes on for the day and head out, or shove them under there when they get home, so nobody has to trip over them. And then this is one of my favorite pieces in the whole home. When my husband and I were married about 3 years, he was in the Army and went to Iraq for 13 months. And during that time, I was finishing up graduate school. And so for graduation, he mailed me this beautiful rug, and it tells the story of 1001 Arabian Nights. And I just love it so, so much. And had to have it framed. I think some people might have rolled it up and shoved it in a closet or kept it in a drawer, but for me it was so special it had to go on the wall. In fact, it was framed by the framer we used when I was growing up. And I took it to her and she said, "You're not going to be able to afford this if I stitch it on for you. So you need to come stitch it on." So I actually went to her framing studio and stitched each one of those on so that I could afford to have it framed on top of it all. And then a couple other things here. This is when I was a rising freshman in high school. This wonderful family that I'd grown up with, my ballroom dancing partners, grandparents, they always took their grandkids on some huge trip every year. And this wasn't something that, I got to grow up with as an opportunity. And they came to my parents and to me this one summer and they said, "Look, we have planned this trip for all of our grandchildren to come with us, and a couple of them can't come. So would you like to come with us to Russia for a 2-week trip?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" And so it was a life-changing event for me. It really ignited my passion for travel and made it so it's got to be part of my spirit and my soul forever. And so when they were downsizing their home, the family got me this, well, we bought it, but got this wonderful muse. So this is my little travel muse lamp that sits here and just reminds me as I go out the door each day what some of my passions are. This is one of my favorite spots to sit in the house because you can sit here, you can look out into the street. It's a really comfortable chair. And then it's also got this really pretty backdrop, which is fun to do. So when we moved into this house, there were these tiny little floating shelves about this big. And as mentioned, I'm a collector, and that was not enough space for me. So we took those down, and then my husband built these super thick, actually, shelves because I knew I was going to load them up with stuff, and I didn't want them to warp or wear over time. And so he put these in. We did a lot of things ourselves in this house, you'll see. So if you see any imperfections, just know it's me. I don't blame anybody else. But he built these, and they've been so integral to storing things, to displaying things, and I really think they help tell our story in this room where we spend all our time, which makes me really happy. It showcases a lot of collections. I got this crazy idea in my head and decided that I had to do this, and no one would ever do this for me. So I got ribbon and framed out each one of these shelves and then hand hammered in each one of these little nail heads. And I think I gave myself some sort of carpal tunnel in so doing, but I love the way it turned out. It's got some imperfections, but to me, that's the handmade nature of it and why I love it so much. Another little thing that we did here when we built these, our original plan was to have some doors down here, but again, with the tight space that we have, opening doors was gonna be questionable. There were gonna be parts we would never get to, and then sliding doors, you can only get to so much. So we just skirted this, and this is where all of our games and puzzles and chaos live, just right behind there. And just put a little cafe curtain rod in there, and it has been a nice little British style detail that we've added that is also really functional for a space this small. So now we'll move into what we jokingly call the slash room. This is probably the hardest working room in our house because it is the library / playroom / art zone / It serves so many purposes. And because of that, when we first moved in, we believe that this used to be the porch. And I don't know if the owners right before us changed it over or if someone before them did. But it has a glass door on it, which I love the architectural feature of that. But if you have a guest staying, that's a little weird that they have no privacy. So this is actually, I have to give my husband full credit on this idea. We put a shutter on it so that when it's just us here, we leave it open so that we get the light coming through and you can see through to the library, which I think is a really beautiful view in the house, especially when I'm sitting on my spot on the sofa. But we leave it open most of the time, but when guests are here, then they can close it for privacy, and then it fully functions as a guest room for them. We love using this room. We really do use it a lot because it serves so many purposes. This is where guests stay. It's a twin bed, so guest, but it can pull out and we can turn it into a king bed, but it makes it so you can't get around it. So really it's just one guest at a time, which is actually kind of what happens. Otherwise, we've got a pull-out sofa and some other things that we can do to accommodate overnight guests. But most of our guests that are coming for overnight are a grandma. And so that works out great. But we've got all kinds of books stored in here. That my biggest collection other than artwork is probably books because I come from a family of book collectors, not hoarders, as well. And I've gotten a lot of hand-me-downs from my grandmothers, from my mother, from my father. My husband loves books as well, and our daughters adore books also. So there's a big collection of kids' books that are on a height where they can grab what they want and need. Their toys are all stored down in the bottom and in a constantly overflowing basket in here, which is fine. This was actually a bed that we bought. It was just a twin bed with some storage underneath because in a small house, all the storage you can get. And it was just really plain and simple and just really disappeared in the room. But I really wanted some softness and some cushion in here. So my husband and I built this headboard and then fastened it in to the piece. So it became a whole bed and really became a day bed. So it feels more user-friendly on a daily basis. This nude, I fell in love with it in a little vintage store locally, and it didn't have a price on it. So I was like, man, I really like that. So I left it at the counter. I was like, call me with the price. And so they called me and she said, all right, yeah, it's $16.99. And I said, all right, well, I'll think about that. I didn't know if $16.99 liked her. And then right before I hung up the phone, I said, wait, where's that dot in the price that you just gave me? And she said, after the 6. And I was like, I'll be there in a minute. So she was $16.99. So popped her in a frame and she's very dressed up now. Again, with my small space, needing a place to put books. This is a piece that actually, we painted it. Probably one day I'll strip it again. But this was in my grandfather's law office, and it's a rotary bookcase. And so it's meant for, if you have the luxury of a big corner, that you can have your books on it and rotate it like a library. we have no luxury of any corners in this house. And so currently it's shoved against the wall with actually the unattractive books on the back that we don't need to access, like my photographs from high school. Don't need to see those all the time. And it helps store those last little bit of books that we couldn't quite fit. Adjacent to this bedroom, thankfully, is a little bathroom, so this really can be a good guest suite. And it was the very first thing I wanted to rip apart when we bought this house, and I'm so thankful that I didn't, because now it's one of my favorite things. We jokingly call it the ladies and landscapes bathroom, because every piece of artwork somehow that went on the wall in there is either a portrait of some woman or it's a landscape. And some of them are travels, some of them are artists that people may know, and some of them are artists that nobody may know. One's a student at the elementary school that we bought at an auction a couple years ago. And then there's a painting that the big one is a painting that my paternal grandmother did of the home that my mother grew up in as a gift to my other grandmother one year, which is pretty cool. And so there's all kinds of goodies in there to look at when you're in the live. This is where we eat almost all of our meals as a family. Well, if we're not on the porch, then we are in here. If it's too cold, because I'm a wimp about the cold, or it's too hot, because some people in my house are wimp about the heat, then we'll be in here. But sometimes we're on the porch, sometimes we're here. But I love, love, love this room. This was the first room in our house that I really feel like we completed, and so it has a special place in my heart because of that. Somehow just the collecting of things led to this room being finished first. So we didn't have really a spot for a proper bar, so we have a secretary, which I'll tell you the story about, but we've set it up as a bar, and it holds all of our linens, et cetera, as well. But it's a very flexible piece. It does a lot for us. We store a lot of our glassware up in there, and it's kind of a mess, but you know, that's why it doesn't have glass on the front. That was intentional to have a secretary that didn't have glass on the front. But this piece actually is kind of a funny story. I went to an estate sale, and they had so many beautiful things, but it was the last day and a lot of things had sold. And I loved the secretary, but it was locked shut. There was no way to open it. You couldn't tell if the inside was a piece of junk or beautiful. And so I was hesitating, and I was like, I don't know. So I left, and I actually called my parents, and I was like, man, I was just at this estate sale. There's this beautiful piece. And my dad was like, why didn't you buy it? And I was like, I don't know. He was like, you should go back and look at it again. And my dad is not he was not the kind of person that encourages you to go just spend money. So I went back and I looked at it, and then by then they had marked everything that was available half price. Still, I was a little bit like, Finally, somebody was swirling around it, threatening to buy it, and I just bought the sucker, even though I couldn't get it open, and had a locksmith open it, and the locksmith cost more than the actual piece of furniture. But it has been one of my favorite things that we've bought. It's just got some really pretty finishing to it, and it was owned by some pharmacist, Dr. Pendergrass, back many years ago. And so it's just fun to have a little piece of history, even if it's not our family's history. The whole room, design-wise, was really built around this piece of artwork. I grew up in a small town in South Carolina, and there was this one really lovely restaurant downtown, and we went there sometime when I was in college, and I looked around the whole space, and it was filled with these gorgeous abstracts, and I just fell in love with them. They looked almost like seahorses or sea dragons and underwater scenes, but very abstracted, and I don't know, it spoke to me in some way, and I just carried that around in my heart. Fast forward to about 12, 13 years ago, somewhere in there, maybe a little longer. Time is going quickly. But anyway, I was working at my first design job in Atlanta, and my boss was the artist that created these pieces that had been in my hometown's restaurant. And so for Christmas one year, everybody banded together and I went on a scavenger hunt and everything, like as a 30-year-old looking for this piece of artwork. And it blew me away. So I've loved it. It's such a statement piece. It's the largest piece we have in our home. But John Ishmael is the artist, and he holds a special place in my heart and a beautiful piece in our home. I am a china collector, and it is just, I love beautiful china. These are a couple of my favorite pieces. My mother gave me these. These were her mother's before her. And it's just a tiny little collection of these itty bitty plates. And then I've got a serving piece, and then I have two different sets, a white and a cream, of gold rimmed china of different spots. And I just mix them with all kinds of fun stuff that I find. I love mixing together different patterns because it means every table is different. And when you're having a dinner party, or even if you're just having dinner with your family and want it to feel fun, it's different every time. And I love that about china and about being flexible with whatever you've got and mixing and matching. This piece right here was my paternal grandparents. It was one of those things where she was giving it to me and I was like, I mean, that's all right. It's okay. But it had wooden shelves and it didn't have the mirror in the back, and it was just a really dark piece for display. And so at some point we put mirror in the back and had glass shelves made, and it totally transformed this piece. So if, someone's handing you down a piece that's not really your favorite, just think of all the things you can do with it, because I've loved it. And now it displays all of our things, part of our, that are supposed to be in a dining room, if you will. But then it's also got some shell collections and oyster collections in there as well. But I love this piece. I have a brass candlestick collection. Part of it was my grandmother's, my maternal grandmother's, and then part of it is my own addiction as well. The drapes in here are a fun story. When we had our second baby, it was just a really big transformation for me, from having one child, having two children, and she had a nice little dramatic entrance into the world. But when I got back to work, my business partner, Kate, was like, you want those drapes? You've been carrying that fabric around in your bag for 2 years. Could you just get the drapes? And so this is my gift from Kate. This is my push present from Kate for our second baby. And then these little French pieces here, I tell you what, I filled up my house with this one wonderful dealer. These were little sketches that someone had done, and they were all on different pieces of paper. It just was somebody's scrapwork, but I just fell in love with them. And so took them to the framer. Each one got cut out and then framed individually, and it really elevated them because, it was a couple of euros to get them. But now that they're all framed up, they feel, pretty fancy. I think that a home having a soul is critical, to people feeling welcome, to people feeling comfortable, and really connecting with your home. And therefore with you, really, because if people come into your home and they feel comfortable and feel welcome, then they're gonna wanna be there. They're gonna want to spend time with you in those spaces. So it's a really important part of design. All right, now we'll head to the kitchen. So the kitchen is not my zone. My husband is absolutely the cook in our family. I am embarrassingly terrible in this room. I can toast things. I can kind of make eggs. I can boil water, mac and cheese. I'm telling you, this is not my special place. But my husband is great in the kitchen, and so he spends most of his time in here and makes it good. But when we first bought the house, there were these really dark cabinets on the bottom and then floating shelves on the top. And that does not suit me because I have too much stuff that needs to be hidden away. So originally we added cabinets, upper cabinets above all that was existing. But then a few years later, we did a little mini renovation where we opened up the doorway between the dining and the kitchen. And then when we were doing that, we realized that there was a door we knew there was a door here. There was a door on this wall that was going up to the attic, and it was preventing us from really having a fully functional kitchen and having a proper pantry. And so we moved it over into the dining room, actually. And so there's now a passageway up to the attic there instead of in here. And so then we were able to add all of these cabinets here, move the refrigerator down here so we get a larger fridge, and then put a proper pantry down at the other end. And when we were doing that, I love mixing finishes. I think it feels more organic over time, that it has been collected. And so we chose to do all white cabinets when we integrated those. And then that's when we painted everything else this kind of muddy, greeny gray color, so that it had some weight, it had some history to it. We replaced all the hardware and then put some unlacquered brass hardware on the new so that it felt a little older, because I love that unlacquered brass gets that patina over time and really starts to kind of turn green and have spots on it. And it's also very conducive to a lifestyle that already has kids and dogs in it because it's part of the story instead of it's a mess. But Jason spends a lot of time in here. I just come in here and drink wine and tell stories, honestly. At a dinner party, my job is to make the table look good, and Jason's job is to actually make everything taste good. So we stay in our zones. Well, this is where we spend pretty much all of our time. So a few years ago, when we first bought the house, let me back up. When we first bought the house, there was this tiny little postage stamp porch here with a big trellis over it. And it was dark and it was tiny, and really you could sit out there, but that was it. And it was covered in stuff all the time because we've got a lot of big, beautiful trees in our neighbor's yard, and they dropped all their beautiful leaves and gook and stuff all over our furniture out there. So one January, my husband's a professor, and he was like, man, I still got 2 weeks left till I go back. I'm gonna build us a porch. I was like, yeah, okay, brah. That sounds great. And so he ripped it all down. And I mean, I came out here maybe 2 days to help, and it was 18 degrees and my fingers were white after about 15 minutes. And I was like, I don't know how you're doing this. You're way tougher than I am. Long story short, he built this whole porch for us, and thank goodness, because it really increased the size of our house. It's literally half of our house again. And so it gives us a really, really large living room where we can gather, 8 to 10 people comfortably. And then it also gives us a dining space where we can dine that many, because it's really important to me, if we're having a dinner party, that the same amount of people who dine can also sit, because you got to go somewhere after and before dinner. And so I want everybody to be comfortable the entire time. So we first got these sofas. They were part of, you guessed it, they're part of a show house situation. And so we were specifying them for the Atlanta Food and Wine Festival. And since we knew that meant that people were going to be drinking wine on them, et cetera, we went ahead and got outdoor sofas. So these are outdoor sofas. They're fully washable. I can zip off all the slip covers, throw them in the wash, pop them back on. I do that a couple of times a year. Other than that, they're just here. Pollen season, you kind of gotta vacuum them a little bit, but that's all. But they're so comfortable. We live on them. This is where we have movie nights, game nights, just laying out here to read. The girls love each having their own sofa out here. There's just a lot more open. So, and you're with nature, which we love nature. We love hiking and being outdoors and birds and gardens and all of that. So them getting to be out here and listen to the birds and spotting the birds is really fun for them too. So we have the living room side, and then we have the dining room side. So for the dining room side, this is actually a relatively new addition. When we first did the porch, we put nothing over here. There were a couple of easels for kids, and that was all. And it was their big place that they could run and play, because we didn't have a large room for them to be able to do that. So it was awesome because they could do whatever they wanted art-wise, and I just hose it off. And we didn't have to have rules out here, and that was so lovely. And now they're a little older, and so we've popped a table up here, and it's not a fancy table. It's one that requires a tablecloth if you're having friends over, but I can rip it off and the kids can still do artwork here and make a big old mess. And we can fold it down if they want to ride roller skates or whatever wildness they want to do out here. But it keeps that flexibility. But we have loved having a big table out here because we can seat so many more people. And it's just really comfortable dining as long as it's not, you know, dead of summer or dead of winter. So this is set with some of my favorite little things, including these beautiful pottery plates that my husband and I had thrown for our wedding. Instead of doing everyday china, we did pottery because I just love the texture and story that that has with it. And then these are actually a couple, and this is a set of napkins. I was on this trip as an alumni trip for Savannah College of Art and Design, and it was in the south of France, and we went one day to market. And I was going through and I wanted a set of napkins, and you know, I kept seeing them and they were pretty and blah, blah, blah. They had my initials on them. So I had to buy them. So they came home and I love them. They're just so beautiful and thick and rich and have so much history to them, which I love, love, love. I love fresh flowers. We don't have a large cutting garden or anything. I'm working towards it though. Have a teeny tiny one in the front yard. But we have a very shady yard, so it's kind of difficult to do. But I love flowers, and one day there will be a giant garden, probably when someone builds a house next door and takes down one of my shade trees, and that'll make me sad. But I'll get a garden out of it. But part of my therapy, if you will, was about midnight last night I was doing these flowers. So if I have extra bags, that's why. But I love doing flowers. Some of these were gathered on a roadside. Some of these come from a florist, but it's a mixture. And I just love having fresh flowers anytime I can in the house. I think it gives such a specialness to any occasion. What I love most about our home is how it works for us. Obviously, I love the beauty of it. I love the little details. I think there are two things, and I think two things really resonate. And one is that when I look around, almost every single thing in our home was purchased with a purpose and was brought into our lives by some sort of story, whether we picked it up on travels, whether it was my great-grandmother's, whether we went to some ramshackle place in Savannah and picked up this mirror from a burning building. There's many stories, but when I look around the house and I see that shell that we got when we were on that special beach vacation, it means something to me. So that's one piece. And then the other piece is that it does the functions we need it to do. It hosts the right number of people in our dining room or in our living room. And if we have a bigger party, then we spill out into the back porch, and then we can seat more people. And so it works for all the ways that our family loves to be on a daily basis, loves to entertain for special occasions, and that is extremely important to me. So this is our bedroom, and it is a teeny tiny little thing, but we love it. We've got a queen bed in here and bedside tables. And again, with a small room, we wanted as much storage as we could possibly get. So we each have our own bedside tables, which are chock full. But then instead of a long dresser, because it was a tight room, we actually originally had a long dresser, and it was like trying to get through. It was not good. Not good planning. It's just what we had. So when we finally sat down and really thought about how we use this room and how we could better use this room, we thought, let's both get a secretary, because then we've each got storage, and most of it's hidden, and it gives us a little bit of space at the foot of the bed. And so then we put a bench there because I always have stuff. And so there's piles of magazines and shoes and gosh knows what else on here all the time. And so Jason, he picked his up on his own. He just came home one day and said, oh, I got myself a secretary. So that was his. This one I got at Scott's from a super quirky little dude, and I have loved it. I think the burl is so beautiful on it. It's a really, really pretty piece, and it was one that I saw it and loved it and was afraid to ask the price on it. And when he gave me the price, I was like, oh, I might could do that. So I said, let me think about it. So walked around for a little bit and was like, I have to get that at that price. It was so beautiful. And I have really, really enjoyed it. And if you open this, it's very dangerous because things will fall out on you. But I think at the end of the day, it ended up being $850. And I thought it was going to be well over $2,000. And I was like, and $1,000 was my threshold. And so he's, well, yeah, it's going to be, $900. And I was like, oh, okay. I can do that. That's below my threshold, actually. And so then I walked around. I was like, if I offer him $800, I'll get it for $850, and I'll feel really good. And so that's what I did. And then I didn't even have a car big enough to take it away that day because I was not truly planning on finding something within my budget that day. And the universe brings you the things you're supposed to have, not usually on your own timeline. My bedside table is from one of our favorite dealers at Scott's. They're out of Athens, Georgia, and they always have beautiful things, and they're an absolute delight to work with. And actually, it was really funny. I had gone on this quest. I was like, I am going to find us bedside tables, and had very specific dimensions that it needed to fit in so that we could still get into our closet, still fit in our room. And they're very odd dimensions for historic pieces. So when I was talking to my husband about it, I was like, it needs to be this big. And he, without even telling me, went to Scott Antique Market one day and called me and he was like, I'm going to send you pictures. I think I found you a bedside table. And it was just the sweetest thing because it's not, his world that he lives in, but he also does understand it and know it, but it's not what he does every day. So it was just a really kind, thoughtful thing to do, and that he had found it from one of our favorite vendors made it even better. But it's an 1860s English piece, and I have so enjoyed it, and it's just beautiful. It's got gorgeous inlay, and it has been an excellent addition to our antique collection here. The rug's a funny story. I told you I'm a big fan of estate sales, and sometimes people call them estate sales and they're not estate sales, you know what I mean? And I love an estate sale and I love a yard sale and I love them both. However, I just want to know what I'm going for. So I walked into this estate sale and it was not. It was a yard sale. But there were treasures. And that's just a life lesson. Just go on in and start rooting through stuff because you never know. So this was literally folded up in the corner of the garage. And I had been looking for an antique rug and it was not in my budget. And so anyway, I went there, started pulling this rug out and I was like, it's the right size. It's $200. I have to have this. So I knew I was going to have to get it professionally cleaned. So I negotiated down to a whopping $150 and paid twice that to have it cleaned. But it's so cool because it's super worn. It even has one spot where it's just a little too worn, but it's under the bed, so you don't see it. But it has been just a nice treasure and really helped ground this whole room. I think antiques give a weight and a story and a patina to the room that you just can't get with new stuff. And I love new stuff for certain elements, but for rugs, the more often I can get an old one, the better, because I do think it really adds a lot. And I will say this too, they're more durable. They also hide stains better, but they're more durable. If you spill something on them, it's so much easier to get it up than anything that's not a natural fiber. And it's just been a real workhorse for us, and I love it. So we'll walk across the hallway to the girls' room, but this is actually one of my favorite parts of the house. I love photography. I did a lot of photography as part of my undergraduate degree, and so I'm always with a camera. Now we're always with a camera, but even before that, I always had some kind of camera on me to take photographs of special events, but also of places and travel and all that as well. So with that being said, I love black and white photography particularly, and so this was just a plain hallway. It's got our little laundry closet, and it connects to a lot of things, so I really wanted it to feel special, and wallpaper was something that I considered, but this is something I'm really passionate about, and so it's sort of wallpaper on its own. And so we've got all kinds of black and white photographs of our family's adventures and trips and daily events, and even a couple of, professional shoots when we do those. But it's a good mixture of things that have happened in our lives, and I just I love looking at them every day. So now we'll go into the girls' room. They share a room and they love it. And I'm gonna love that as long as they do. And one year for Christmas, they both wanted canopy beds. We'd been reading a lot of books where the characters had canopy beds and they were very passionate about wanting those. So they asked Santa Claus for them and he delivered. And he brought these canopy beds, and because I'm a designer, they were too short. They were only like this tall. And it made the room feel short, and that bothered me. So we went to the same place that refinished our base of our table and had these poles made and painted and finished to make them really tall. And then my husband built these rectangular pieces to go on the top, because the canopy beds didn't have a top to them. They just were shaped that way. And so created these big rectangles, and then we upholstered them in fabric. And then actually on top, we bought these little bed skirts and just popped a bed skirt up there. And so that's what these are pre-made bed skirts that are just flopped over the edge to add that sweet little scalloping that you see. And then the headboard, those were actually drapes that were in our room once upon a time, and I had just saved them because I loved the fabric, but didn't have a place to put them. And so we made that the headboard and hung them on the backside so that they are uniform there too. And each girl has their bed and they have their little zone. They have their own little desks that they use, but they share a lot, and I really admire them for that because they really are sweet girls and they really share well, and I'm very appreciative. So they like having their own space. Our oldest is really passionate about learning the piano, so she moved one into her bedroom, and I aesthetically don't care for it, but functionally I really do. I love that she wants to play the piano so much that she wants to roll over in her bed and do it. So I will get no aesthetic complaints there because it makes me happy that she wants to play there. So I was born in Panama, and so there are a couple of different pieces in here that are from either when we lived there when I was an infant or when we traveled there when I was an adult. But we've got some Panamanian molas. We've got some just beautiful paintings from there. That's where that one's from. And then a family friend of ours is in the State Department, and he lived in Haiti for a while. And this is actually a Haitian piece that he brought back for us. That a robot was done by our oldest. That was one of her pieces. Jason picked up that piece that hangs between their beds. And then my favorite piece, maybe one of my favorite pieces in the whole house, is this piece that hangs here. And it's Guatemalan, and it's a calendar, but we bought it on our honeymoon. And we had kind of a funny honeymoon story. We were supposed to go to Belize, but we got married in hurricane season. So we went to Belize for a night, and then we evacuated to Guatemala, which is actually where we both wanted to go, but my husband's dear friend was from Guatemala and he had never been with him, so he felt guilty about that. So anyway, we got to go and see Belize and Guatemala, and we went back to Belize at the end of the week. But it was just kind of a wild, wild ride, but very exciting because we got to go to Guatemala, which we wanted to do. And this is just an incredible piece of embroidery. It's an amazing textile, and I treasure that piece. It's such a good memory. And we hung it in the girls' room so they see where our love started. It makes us happy. This home means a lot to me. This is the home where we've brought both our babies home. It's the home where we have built all of our at-home family memories. And it really is a reflection of who we are, what we love, where we've been. And I feel like it's helping us build special memories. You think about where you unwrap your Christmas presents. You think about where you have your birthday celebrations. And I love that for us as adults, but also for our girls, that they will have these walls as the backdrop of their memories, that they will remember sitting in this particular chair in the living room when they're watching TV or reading a book, or, you know, I love that each piece will somehow subliminally or otherwise be in their minds, but then overall that the home feels cozy and welcoming and is a big part of our story as a family.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Joanna. Welcome to our home in Connecticut. Come on in. Hi, I'm Joanna Buchanan and I have a business in home. I'm a designer and I design tabletop, home decor, and I especially love doing Christmas ornaments. I'm based in Wilton, Connecticut, which is a town that I had never heard of before we started looking for a house in Connecticut. And my husband and I pulled up actually, and we fell in love with this house. It was completely derelict, overgrown. It's early 18, I think it's 1816 or something it was built. And it's got some newer extensions that were done in the 60s. And what I love about the house is that it's set in really beautiful gardens and it's sort of set on a hill. So from all the windows, you see greenery and you see nature from pretty much everywhere in the house. We did so much to this house, and my husband is a contractor, so we both love the romance of a derelict, rundown place, but we also both, I think, have a very similar vision of what we know things can be. So when we first saw this place, everything was really dark, weird blue carpet everywhere, the walls were navy, it was a very, very dark house. And there was wood, a lot of natural wood. And when we saw it, we knew both immediately what we wanted to do. We wanted it to feel like a garden inside, and we wanted to paint everything white. My husband's a big, let's paint everything white. And I knew I wanted to really make it, I really wanted it to feel colorful and optimistic and modern. I didn't want it to feel a little bit sort of like an old English estate. I didn't want that feel. And so we moved really quickly. My husband's guys came in and, you know, within 2 weeks, pretty much floors were sanded, paint, we ripped things out and changed things around. But fundamentally, the structure of the house stayed the same. Most of what we did was cosmetic. Well, new kitchen, new bathrooms, I guess that, yeah, there was a lot of work. But, and he said to me, the electrician's coming tomorrow, have you picked your lights? And I was like, no! So I was running to open light stores, you know, nearby, trying to find something. So we moved quickly, and that was nice. So I was born in the Philippines. I grew up in Hong Kong. I went to school in England. And then I moved to New York, worked in New York, and also worked a lot in India as well, traveling to India multiple times for months on end. So I think I have such a global view of the world. I feel like all these visual elements have distilled themselves into my brain. And when I'm designing now, I really pull from that. I do very little kind of academic research. I really am looking into myself and reflecting on the things I've seen and pulling all those different influences into my work. So I loved the bling of Hong Kong and the gold in Hong Kong. I love the textiles and the amazing color in India. I love now being in Connecticut and having my garden be a huge influence on my work. And obviously city living both in Hong Kong and New York, that sort of hard-edged glamour is how I imagine those cities. And I always think of that too when I'm designing. So this is our reading room, and it's actually our children that named it this, because when we moved into this house, we weren't sure what this space was going to be used for. And very, very initially, both children found this the room that they wanted to sit and read in. And so as my husband and I were encouraging every form of reading, we were like, go for it, we're going to call it the reading room. And so the name has kind of stuck. And what I like about it is that there's no TV in here. It's very quiet. It's got beautiful light. And we've got some really cool vintage library carts that we use for our books, which we've completely outgrown now. So we need to find more vintage library carts for that. We've got a brilliant old fireplace here. It doesn't work, so we filled it with kind of plants and color, which I love. And then we painted everything white, the high gloss white when we moved in. It was, as I said, it was really dark. There was a lot of dark wood. And I love just taking these really old distressed beams and painting them high gloss. I think it's so fresh looking. Some of my favorite pieces of furniture are in here. These are vintage chairs that we picked up at flea markets, and then we lacquered them in these this one we lacquered in this fabulous sort of semi-gloss turquoise, and then did the upholstering to match, which I love. And then this one is so cool. I had this piece of vintage Indian fabric from my travels, and I loved the idea of taking a very sort of traditional preppy cane chair and upholstering it in beautiful Indian textiles. And then this is a funny piece. My husband is a big lover of quirky things. It's actually a coffee table made from skateboards. So I love the mix of all of these kind of funny bits in here. This is a cabinet that I had from my apartment in London. I got that at one of the, I think, Portobello Market or something, and I had the glass top cut for it. And I love all these things on top. They're just so, it's an eclectic mix. This I think sums me up probably, because it should have a very traditional kind of Roman bust on the top of this marble pedestal, but I love it with the Buddha on top. So I think that juxtaposition of classical and slightly hippie Indian Eastern vibe, it just, to me, that I just love what this stands for. Nothing too as it should be. We've got beautiful light in this room, as you can see, and the windows look out onto some of the back garden, and this really cool gold glass ball that we bought at a vintage shop in Connecticut that actually belonged to, what's the name of the producer with the red hair? Ron Howard. So Ron Howard used to have an estate in Connecticut, and apparently sold it all off, and we bought his beautiful gold ball. And as we go through the house, you will see I love, love, love round things, and I love balls in all different sort of iterations. So I love, love, love this room, and everyone who comes in here is firstly just like, oh my God, I can't believe you made such a bold choice with the wallpaper, which we'll see, but I think to me it is absolutely the garden inside. And then this was something, the fireplace that we put in when we moved in, there was the weirdest fireplace and mantelpiece that didn't have a shelf. And I was like, oh my God, that's the ultimate accessorizing opportunity, is a shelf above a fireplace. So we bought this fireplace, I think, from somewhere like Home Depot, but then used the English Paints of Europe paint to get this amazing green color. These are all mirrors that I've collected over the years from London, actually mostly London and some New York. And then these are pieces that Brad and I we literally always fall in love with the same thing and each other. Oh my God. But we saw these gold pine cones and just loved them. And then this is one of Brad's old pieces. God knows who this guy is, but he's kind of cool up here. And I just love the mixing of the gold and the silver. I love all the different textures on here. And I work really hard to keep the plants alive because it is not easy. This is actually something that Brad found on the street. And I think it's so pretty. Again, the balls, the round things. And I love this. It's a vintage one. We had it rewired, so it's really cool. And then over in this corner, we have, this is actually a garden table that we brought inside. And we collected these funny things on here. These are Hubble telescopes, apparently. And I think we saw them, and I think we got completely scammed because they were so expensive. And we were like, you know what, we didn't really need to buy the Hubble telescope to have in our house, but it's a good story. But we bought them before we had kids, and we were sort of, had money to spend on things like that. This is a cool lamp that I found actually in Brad's garage before we got married. And then I had this brass lampshade made for it. And so many people come in and they're like, oh my God, where can I get a brass lampshade made? And the place that I had it made in the city has gone out of business, so it's not there anymore, which is a shame. And then Oh, more balls over here in this corner. Oh, and this is actually, this is one of my trays from the new collection. And I always like to put things that I've designed into the house to see if they work, if the colors work, because my collection is very much an expression of my personal aesthetic, obviously. And so if things work in the house, then they're probably going to work in the collection. So I love this new ECAT tray, and I love the play of the ECAT with the stripe. So this is another piece that people seem to love when they come into the house. It's Designer Guild fabric on, I think it's a Mitchell Gold Ottoman, and it has really withstood the test of time and children, and a lot of children jumping up and down on it. So I would say to people, don't be scared of using velvet and precious fabrics, because sometimes they really are just completely fine. In this corner, I've got my little collection of balls. So these are some of my glass balls that I've collected over the years, and just I also love glass. I just love the way it takes color. I love the translucent aspect of it. And I love playing that against this vintage mirror, again with the circles. This is a piece that I bought in a market, and then I painted it gold and kind of distressed it. And I've had this with me for such a long time. I also love to have lots of textiles around. So we always have Indian quilts, and I've got a lovely cashmere throw there, so that when you're watching TV, there's always tons of, we call them tuckles, to kind of snuggle in with and just get really kind of cozy with. So we bought these lights at a vintage store, and they're a pair, but a kind of mismatched pair. So we have one here and one over there, but we made them a proper pair by having the matching shades made in the black gloss. And then actually this is another street find. So it was funny, as I was kind of going through the house thinking about what I was going to say, I was like, oh my God, all of our furniture is from the street. But this was another street find that we just painted black. It's one of those vintage magazine kind of racks, but I love it in here because it's kind of light and airy and it doesn't take up too much space. It's funny because I think I read somewhere once upon a time that as you get older, you do have this inherent desire to be closer to nature. And I read it when I was young and thought, oh my God, they're insane. I'm never going to leave the city. But actually, my husband and I were both drawn to having more space. And the beauty of nature, I think you do not get in the city. So the transition was difficult at first because I didn't drive. So I moved here and I was like stuck in the middle of nowhere in a garden, which was beautiful, but still not driving. But we still spend a lot of time in the city. We still have a place there. So we're back and forth quite a lot. And I do find when I come home now, I think it's age, that I am so grateful to just be surrounded by all this green and beauty. And for me, gardening was a hobby when I was growing up when I was in England at my parents' house. And now gardening is one of my massive hobbies as well. So I think that has eased the transition. Okay, so this room I love because there's light coming in from both sides, and it is absolutely, you feel like you're inside outside with all this glass. It's so cool. And we use this, again, a multi-purpose room. We use it as a kind of dumping ground for a lot of the sports equipment and things like that. But it also houses our music area, so that's where the kids do their piano, and we've got guitars and stuff there. And also we use this as a dining room. So actually it was so fun. I got to set up the table for a spring lunch, brunch, whatever. So it was, normally there's more stuff on here, but it was nice to clean it up and really sort of set the scene for a pretty sort of spring brunch. This is an area where I play with a lot of my textiles. So these are all things that I've designed, all the pillows in our collection. And I love to play with them and see what works together, what colors are working together, what fabrications work together. And it's very impactful, and I do change it seasonally. So this is definitely more of a spring vibe. Sometimes I'll do something a little bit darker and moodier, but this is definitely all about fresh greens and gorgeous pinks. So that is my spring color palette. I love the lights in this room. They have this beautiful sort of, they're really oversized. They've got this really cool natural texture. And I love that against the kind of slightly more glamorous mirror that we painted matte white. We painted the piano white. Like, we'll paint anything. Give us anything and we'll paint it white. And then we've just got some cool pieces in here. This is a vintage armoire that holds a whole host of Lego and photo albums and stuff. And then some of the cool lights that I've had. And then my husband is always picking up artwork. And actually, as I was getting the room ready yesterday, I was like, wait a minute, there's a painting up there that I've never seen before. And he had obviously just come in and just chucked it up there and hoped I wouldn't notice, and I didn't. But yeah, so he's always finding paintings and just sort of popping them in the house. But actually some of these paintings are his. Like, this is one of his paintings, which I absolutely love. And this is another one of his. So I love having his paintings around the house as well. So it's just, it's a mix. So I was having a play with some of our new spring collection and trying to decide if I was setting a spring or having a spring brunch, what would I do? So I loved bringing in, or being inspired by really this beautiful color palette of the flowers, the pale, pale pink, and this really lovely lilac. And obviously green is a huge color for me. I love it. And then these are some of our new pieces in the collection. So this is our bow napkin, which is actually kind of fabulous because it has the bow tied onto the back or stitched onto the back. So you tie the bow yourself. And this is our melamine collection, which I was inspired by some of my mum's old china. But we put in our butterfly into the pattern. And then we also, the stripy bee is a big part of the Joanna Buchanan collection, so we also put the stripy bee in there. Oh, and here's the stripy bee as well. So this is the bee embroidered on straw, and then this is one of our beautiful new tablecloths, which is the golden bee. So this is white linen with these beautiful golden bees kind of embroidered all over the tablecloth. So I was feeling very springy and loving this palette of kind of acid pastels. They're not sickly sweet. They've got a little bit more punch to them. This is the aqua with the pink, which I love that color combination. I think it's strong. It's not insipid, but it's not too bold or overwhelming. And then actually this is one of our new capice trays that I designed. And I love the kind of luminescent look of the capice. And then these are our candlesticks. So you can see, like, I really try to use what I design to make sure that it is useful, it is beautiful, and hopefully will set an amazing table, and you can have lots of fun parties with our things. It's so funny, I did a career day at school this week for my children, so I'm very much in career mode at the moment. I knew I always loved fashion and design, and even as a child I was always, tie-dyeing my mother's sheets and turning them into tablecloths and painting fabric and decorating cardboard boxes for my stuffed animals' houses and stuff like that. So I always had a passion for design. I followed that through at university, and then through an internship got a job in London and worked in London in a corporate environment for 6 years, moved to New York and worked in multiple corporate environments as a designer. And then I lost my job around 8 years ago, and a friend of mine who I had worked with said, oh, come to and do something for me for One Kings Lane. And I said, oh, not really interested, taking a bit of a break. And she said, no, you have to, and I said, only if it's my own brand, only if it's Christmas ornaments. And she was like, you're out of your mind. You've never, you don't know anything about the Christmas market. But I said, no, that's what I want to do. God knows where that came from. But anyway, and it started with, so One Kings Lane was my very first customer. And then it just grew. You kind of get a bit of an ego about things. And you're like, oh, people like what I'm doing as for myself, not working for someone else. And the business started, as I said, 8-9 years ago. And now we're with amazing clients around the world. We're in Neiman Marcus, we're in Bloomingdale's. We have a very deep relationship with Harrods in the UK. And we've got some fabulous boutiques in Monaco and South America. So it's an amazing, I feel like everything's come full circle because I feel like a child of the world, and now our brand is a global brand. So it's cool. Okay, so this is my studio, which is actually incredibly tidy. And my children, who are always, shaming me for having such a messy studio, would actually agree that it's tidy. Although I know to the naked eye, everyone's probably looking at it going, oh my God, how can anyone work in a space like this? But I have everything here that I need. And I know where everything is, which is actually, does sometimes impress people. But I have all my inspiration. I have ideas on the go. I have samples in here. And I think part of the way I work is having the juxtaposition of things, just kind of lying around. And sometimes as a creative, you'll be like, oh my God, I never thought of putting that with that. And it's only just because you had those two things sitting in your office at the same time together. And it just kind of jogs your memory or jogs your brain in a way that wouldn't have been jogged if you were in a really spotlessly clean place. So anyway, I have all my working things on here. It's kind of divided by sections. I have a lot of my vintage pieces here. You can see these are works in progress. I have tons and tons of reference. I mean, this is just like an Aladdin's cave for someone that loves color and texture. These are, like a bajillion ribbon options from my trips to India. I have all my Pantone color books and all my reference books. I have images of all my photo shoots that we've done, packaging, again, more textiles and just, things that will inspire me that I'll kind of dig through and find. And then this is my, oh my God, please don't look at this. We'll just do a real slow pan across that because I meant to tidy it and I didn't. But I've got some really pretty things over here that I keep meaning to kind of do. I keep meaning to get a cool lampshade for that light. I've got some nice plants in here. I also love dead flowers as well. So you can see the hyacinths are a little bit dead, but I love the smell so much. I refuse to get rid of them until they're completely falling apart. And then I love all the details in here. Like I've got my pens in my pots. This is some of the jewelry that I'm working on with some of the stones that I've got. That I'm playing with. And then I always love to have fresh flowers in here as well. So that really gives me a lift. And this light we got for our wedding from ABC Carpet. And to me, it is just one of the most beautiful things in the world. I love, again, the glass, the orange in there is so strong. I love it. And then this table we actually had made for the studio space so that it's got the work countertop and then all this amazing shelving underneath. Because you can see I do need a lot of space for my things. Yeah, I think people come to the house and they always say, I feel like I'm on holiday. And one day, I mean, we've got a really pretty pool, a really old kind of like black pool and a really cool old pool house. And people kind of go out there and they just can't believe that, to your point, they're just an hour from New York. But we work a lot in the garden. We really try and create this feeling of just beauty. We really do. It matters to us. We like living surrounded by beautiful things and having the greenery so close. So I think for me, I love color. That's number one. I love pattern and I love the play of color and pattern. And I hate things that look too cookie cutter. And I like the feeling of an eclectic, layered home. Brad and I, Brad's my husband, and I both have collected pieces over the years. So things in here mean something to us. And to me, it's about putting things together in a way that works, not buying things to fit the situation. So this is the kitchen in our house. You can see the ceilings get a little bit lower. But again, we painted everything white, white, white. This is one of Brad's paintings, which I love. I think it's such a brilliant spot for it. And I love the drama of the black and the olive. So we put in the kitchen. It's IKEA, so high-low, with the wooden butcher block top and the cool kind of gray cabinets. I love the warmth of that. And then we put in, we originally put in the tiles. And I couldn't figure out what else we wanted to do. The tiles were cool, but it wasn't enough. So then I think about 2 years ago, I said, you know what, let's put a shelf in because I love the look of a shelf in a kitchen. And then let's just go bonkers with the wallpaper, which is what we did. And when Brad saw it, he was like, there's a key in there. It's like crazy. But I was like, I love it because it feels, again, like the garden coming inside. And then on our center island, I just have all this greenery. So you can see it's not really a chef's kitchen. I would say it's a gardener's kitchen. And then I've got, things that I'm trying to keep alive here. I'm not the best houseplant person, but I'm doing my best. And then we've got more books. Again, like we just can't seem to have enough space for all our books. And this is a really cool table that I found on eBay. And then we had the plexiglass cut to size and shape. And then these are just kind of fun IKEA chairs. But I love how transparent this whole corner is. It just feels very light. And I think that's what we needed in this room. And then this is a really cool piece that we got. I can't remember where we got it, but we replaced it's like a vintage filing cabinet. We replaced the panels with mirrors so that it was reflecting of light. And then we've got our bar in here, which is kind of fun. And then I'm not going to show you what's in the other sections, but it's just like kitchen stuff. And then this is a really lovely piece that Brad made years ago before we met, but we added the glasses kind of later. So I like to think that that's me and that's him. And I like having these moments of very sort of simple, quiet, textural feeling and color in amongst all the craziness of the colors of the house, So I think having the quiet moments is nice. And I didn't take down, my son just turned 13, and I love these crazy silver balloons. But normally this corner is a little bit quiet because we just have one sort of single lamp. But again, silver and gold, love it together. So anyway, yeah, so that's our kitchen. And then, this is a really beautiful light that I found. I think this was an eBay find as well. I needed to find something that was really shallow because the ceilings are low in here. But I wanted something really sparkly and really dramatic. And I just love that. We actually ended up shipping it from Germany, I think. But it is so perfect in here, those giant kind of gobby glass stones at the top. It's so cool. So my obsession with wallpaper has not stopped and continues everywhere. So we ended up wallpapering up the stairs and in the hallway upstairs this fabulous blue and white stripe, which I just think looks so fresh. And it was so funny. I realized when I just was doing this, I'm wearing the blue and white striped shirt as well. So I feel like I'm blending in. But I love all the different angles of the wallpaper when you start cutting it around the corners. But we literally wallpapered everywhere we could. When I set about designing a space, I always think about the mood that I'm trying to create. Is it moody? Is it dramatic? Is it, cozy? And I think this house is very optimistic feeling. And I think it's the color and the light in here that's so lovely. And when people come in, I love that reaction of like, wow, people don't expect an old house to look like this. So I think I love the happiness about the house. I think it's just got a really good vibe. So this is the bedroom, and it's not very big, but I love it because it just is so light and bright. You can see we don't have any curtains. I love going to sleep at night, seeing the moon outside and the stars. And I love waking up to the natural light and the birds singing. And this is totally, it's my sanctuary. I come up here, I find it so relaxing. I love my bed. I love all the textiles on here. We are not a white bed person, but these are things that I've had made from my travels to India. These are textiles that I picked up over the years. This is a really cool piece because this is a piece of fabric that I found in Japan when I was there, and I had it upholstered onto the lucite base. So I love, again, the juxtaposition of a sort of 60s lucite piece with crazy Japanese vintage OB fabric on there. And these glass balls were given to me or given to us as wedding presents, which I think are so lovely in here. And really the color inspiration for the room came from this gorgeous vase, which is the green, the orange, and the pink. And I just think this color palette is so gorgeous. I love it. And you can see I look out over the garden, so I can see what's going on, and I really feel very connected to our outside space in this room. We have rugs in the reading room and the TV room, but like upstairs, we painted all the floorboards white high gloss, and I love the feel of that, and I love the texture of it. So yes, I think in smaller rooms, like this bedroom, we didn't need a rug. I think I like the sort of feeling of sort of spareness and the extreme amount of white in here. I think is really nice. I have no idea, but I mean, my husband is 6 foot and he can get in and he's okay. I'm 5'6", so it's probably 7 foot, probably, I think. So I'm going to quickly show you my son's room because it's a work in progress, but he's just moved into this room. We're just decorating it for him. And he organized and picked out all the shelves. He decided he wanted these shelves to show his shoes. You can see how neat and tidy he is. Everything's very organized. And he started doing some drawings of shoes. Here are his shoe cleaning kits. Like, it doesn't end with the shoes. So anyway, he is so thrilled to have this space and to have it be his own. And I'm so happy that he's decorating it how he wants it. Home means to me somewhere where I can truly relax, although here we are filming in the home today. So it's a little bit of a workspace too, but I love at the end of the night closing the gate, and I love a fire, and it's really somewhere where you can relax and read a book, be with the family. And I like that there's quiet times and there's busy times too. You know, there's when everyone's around and it's noisy and fun and it's kind of slightly chaotic, that's brilliant. But I also love it when it's really quiet and really still. So I think, you know, home is a space that can embrace all aspects of your life, really.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.